Okay, it's recording. Okay.
All right.
Hi, and welcome back to Earth Drama. I think this is episode 5. I don't have any intro music yet. Maybe that will change, but for now, it's just
this uncomfortable
Sean's
silence.
My partner Sean is here today. I'm feeling pressure about hosting, I guess, because like if it's unhinged, and
I'm
just
your safety
me, it's
blanket.
fine, but when I don't have as much of a plan and stuff and it's chaotic with another person, I just feel bad for that other person trying to manage in the chaos. But anyways, I had some topics for today to talk about, and I brought Sean here today because he was present at both these events, and there was some...
Plus, you're always talking about me, so people probably wanted to put a voice to the name, I guess, if they hadn't already done that. So
yeah, so some crazy stuff has happened, tragic stuff in my family recently with like 2 different losses. My grandma had passed away on October 4th, or nope, that was the funeral. I actually don't know the day.
Gosh.
Forget.
Yeah. But she passed away maybe, recently. And unfortunately, you had another tragedy in the family as well, too.
Anyways, there was like a few funerals we had just attended. And so there's like a bit of funeral lore that we want to discuss.
Funeral lore.
Shaking his head. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't heard that term before, funeral lore, but let's get into it.
That's what it is. How else do you describe it? Just like some crazy stuff happened at these 2 funerals. And I did talk a bit about the situation that happened at the first one in the last video of mine, because some lore happened after that, and I happened to mention the event and whatever. Okay. How do I get into it? I don't know. Okay. So
are you going to recap the event for people? Or?
Because I said basically the situation in my last video.
Was it your last podcast? Your last video?
There was the video called, well, that
all right. Well, there you go. It hasn't been on the pod yet. Jeez, look at that. I'm using the lingo.
There was some lore having to do with incense. Said it right this time.
Yeah.
The video is about saying incest instead of incense by accident when I was mentioning this story to a random person of the public. So we got it right this time. So gotcha. Anyways, but yeah, so
sadly your grandma passed away. She was Orthodox.
Yes. Greek Orthodox.
Her funeral was in an Orthodox church.
They just have interesting practices.
Very interesting.
They have interesting practices, outdated practices where they use a lot of incense and they use it with charcoal.
It's not outdated if that's what God wants. There you go. You have nothing now, right? If that's what God wants, God works in mysterious ways. We need to accept his style.
I did go down a rabbit hole of why they use this stuff in the first place.
All right.
The outdated bit is that they used to use a lot of the incense to mask the gross smell of the churches, because back in the day, they didn't have the cleaning practices that we now have in our modern times, I guess, and the churches really stank. So they would smoke it up with the incense and charcoal, whatever,
to relieve the odor.
But nowadays it's a bit of a hazard. It's a bit of a health hazard because we had a situation happen where my great uncle lost consciousness during the service.
During someone else's funeral.
And we thought he was having a stroke. And I was just, it was almost a death at a funeral. It felt like at the time, at least. He's okay today. He's okay, thank God. But sorry, let's what?
Oh, I was going to say, let's sort of set the scene here, because the priest was sort of walking around with his, what do they call it? A censer is the technical term, but basically
it's called a censer. A
metal thing with smoke coming out of it. And he's walking around and he's saying, basically he's trying to get grandma into heaven. And he's chanting.
Okay. It is an open casket funeral. So grandma's there and he's chanting away, and it's going on for, I don't know how long in it was. up until the loss of consciousness.
Well, I'll tell you, everyone was having trouble breathing at that point. Because,
I couldn't breathe well. I wanted to leave and have some fresh air in my lungs because the place was getting smoked up, and this was an enclosed space. Like this, it was a hazard. And yeah, there was no windows, and it just kept getting more smoky. And then my great uncle, so you stand and you sit, and you stand, you sit, and like the priest, dismisses everyone to sit when it's time to sit, whatever. And so he had done that. We were just standing, and he was like, okay, you can now be seated. And my great uncle kept standing and wouldn't sit, like something was wrong. His family members were then at his side there trying to get him to sit down and figure out what was going on. And like he appeared to be having something was going to, it actually looked like he was having either a seizure or a stroke.
Yeah.
Like his facial expression stuff, and he was like not there. Like he was he was not present. So he did end up sitting down, but he still was not okay. And then it caused a disruption during the service. And clearly, but the priest,
he was in a trance. He had to keep going. He had to say his Hail Marys, and he was doing his ritual. It's like he didn't even notice, and everyone was sort of like trying to get his attention.
It was right in front of him. Okay, this was live streamed, so I watched it back too, because I was like, was I just feeling like it went on forever before the priest finally stopped? But no, it was going on and on. More and more people also started to like gather around my great uncle. People were like standing up, but it was clearly like a crisis that was going on. Maybe it wasn't clear enough to the priest. I don't know. I don't know what, like Sean said, is there a protocol where like it
really
to
do a certain number of rounds? Like, he had to get all like, the scriptures in, and
like, what was he saying?
Well, they're basically
the things? It was like,
they keep asking God, over and over again to ensure her access to heaven.
Yeah. So, and then he had like a separate singer that was up top in the upstairs of the church that's like chanting as well, and they just kept going on. And then until I was watching the live stream, I had to boost the audio, and my sister, thank God for her, she's a doctor, so she was very involved in trying to help and bring him back to life. And after his daughter was telling me that he had been saying at some point, I don't know, before he lost consciousness or after, he was saying something like, I'm going to be with like my grandma, like her saying her name. It's maybe time for me to, I said something like that.
Anticipating his own demise. And then there he is standing, having all sorts of problems.
And I could have mixed that up. I don't know if he had been saying that a different day as what, just saying it's like his time soon. But I think she was saying that he had been saying that during this event, like during the thing at the church. I actually was having a panic and thinking, oh my God, this is very serious. And it just kept getting smokier and smokier. And it took a while to, finally, I don't know who opened the doors, because the priest, until I boosted the audio, and I think my sister says to someone, it sounds like, have you talked to the priest? Like she points towards him. He's right there. He goes up and kisses I don't know if he fully kissed him on the head. Because I was watching this live stream footage, like just analyzing the shit out of it. It appeared like he like kissed the top of his head or something, or, motion to do that.
Was he swinging his thing at this time?
No, it was sitting on the stand.
That's what I thought, right next to the guy who was having breathing problems.
He went and then appeared to sort of kiss him on the head, and then went back to chanting, like went up, and like he obviously knew, it was obvious.
This is the thing, is they had a regular sort of churchgoer there. He's like, this happens all the time, with the smoke and everybody fasting and stuff. We get this, with some regularity. And so he didn't seem concerned at all. And so I wonder if maybe the priest was kind of like, well, this just kind of happens every now and then.
He's a special type of character, that one. It's a family friend. I turned around in absolute distress and desperation too. I was trying to make one of the guys go like, can we get rid of the freaking incense smoke. Like someone needs to move it. Like I just didn't feel comfortable. It was hard for anyone to just go and grab it because the priest was still just going on with his little thing. And it would have been so awkward. And it's like, I'm like, I want to, it's clearly it seemed to be the smoke that was causing it, but maybe not clear to some people. But a bunch of us are like, I think it's this too smoky. You can't breathe.
Just so it's clear, this guy got a double dose of smoke. So the priest was walking around waving the smoke everywhere, and then he set down his smoke machine right next to the old fella. Yeah, and unfortunately, he couldn't get a breath in.
That row, the people, he was on the end of the row, and so it was he was specifically quite near the smoke that was sitting in its stand, continuing to smoke. And as he was not there and had appeared to be crossing over to the other side, it was still smoking and smoking. Like it was still giving off smoke. And
I think people were afraid to move it because it's kind of like sacrilegious to go in there and grab the priest's
that's obviously
smoking scepter and move it aside.
I think it's all silly in my opinion. It's grandma's okay. She's already at peace in heaven or whatever it is, the other side.
Well, she is now because they did all the chants in the right ways, in the right order, for the right amount of time.
Father
smoke.
It's just like, how do you have such a bro name and you're an Orthodox priest for one thing?
Well, he did have a bit of
doing his little chants. I don't think is going to be the factor of whether or not grandma gets into heaven. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, what if grandma doesn't get into heaven? Like I fuck this shit up. I steal his little thing. I disrupt the whole, I crash the funeral somehow. And it's just also just the social awkwardness of it all, or like having to deal with, because this was a long type of funeral. Like we then were going to the cemetery to do the burial service. And then we were going back to the church to do the reception afterwards. And this was stage one. This was just like the beginning chants of it all and incense of it all. Anyways, the paramedics literally came mid-funeral. He ended up being okay, my great uncle, but it was just like,
it was touch and go. It was scary. Everyone was really concerned. And then we kind of wrapped up the ceremony, and then
they aired it out. They got the doors open and stuff, had aired out.
Left in a convoy for the actual burial at the graveyard.
And I was going to say, so I was showing the live stream to my cousin, and he mentioned he said something about like burning charcoal, carbon monoxide stuff, that
causes carbon monoxide poisoning. And he was wondering if perhaps that was what happened.
I didn't think that. Because I didn't realize they used charcoal. It was just like really smoky or smell or incense, or we thought, right, he had trouble breathing.
We weren't sure what they were burning, but it certainly had an odor to it.
So I'm like, holy shit. Oh my God. There was like no windows open. It was an enclosed space. So I did a quick Google search, and apparently it doesn't actually take a lot of charcoal to cause unhealthy carbon monoxide levels.
Absolutely. And this guy must have been like in his 90s. So, late 80s maybe or something. He was in
his 90s. Yeah.
But he was an older fellow.
Older than my grandpa, but I don't think not quite 90.
Still sharp as hell. So your cousin was sort of speculating that they were burning charcoal.
Also, yeah, because he went to the hospital. So he left the funeral and went to the hospital to get checked out and everything. And something like this has sort of happened to him before. I was talking to his daughter, but it was because his blood sugar was too low. So he had eaten enough that day and everything. That was all fine. And all his levels were apparently fine. Like there was no other apparent cause other than the incense.
Gotcha.
So they did say they were thinking it was because of the incense. My sister, who's a doctor, thought it was something to do with the incense or whatever it was. But yeah, it was until my cousin had said about the carbon monoxide. Then more specifically, it's like, was everyone experiencing a bit of carbon monoxide poisoning in general? Like it wasn't just he was sensitive to the incense himself. It was like,
oh gosh,
levels were getting
everyone
unhealthy,
was,
right? It was
definitely
crazy.
dealing with some sort of like smoke inhalation issue. At least that was my perspective. Maybe not the regular guy. He was used to it, but for the rest of us, it was like, holy heck.
Yeah. So when I found that out after however many days after the service, I couldn't help myself but to just text Father
Bruce
to let
as
him
any
know.
regular person would do, of course.
But me and the social anxiety and even though it's like, I think I'm doing the right thing to just be like, hey, this might have happened. This could have been carbon monoxide thing. Like, is just,
So just
letting you know what.
one little thing, you just keep moving in and out from your mic.
Oh, do I?
Yeah. So you kind of want to
I have to move
maintain
in
a
and out a little
consistent distance as best you can there. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
It's just because it gets louder and then quieter.
Right,
And then,
sorry.
yeah. No, not a
try
problem.
to normalize that in post.
Yes.
Thanks for letting me know. So I was like, so just because this priest was a bit of a character. I was worried of offending him. I was trying to just word this like I wasn't
in
trying
a delicate
to, like,
way.
accuse him.
Yeah,
or
you didn't want to
blame
say,
him.
"Hey, it was your fault
I just
that
said he might
this
have
happened."
I just said I was sort of looking into it, and it doesn't cause much charcoal to what apparently he might have had carbon monoxide poisoning, is like what it could have been. And so,
And then he
but
replied,
he seemed a
"Well,
bit
I was looking
offended
through
for
the
sure.
Bible, and you can shut the hell up," which was a very strange thing for a priest to say. But of course, he didn't
did
say
not
that. He
say
replied
that.
in a very professional and
I had just suggested if a window,
respectful manner.
I suggested if a window could be open for proper air circulation, something like that. Like, and then he responded back however many days later, which is I get back to text up to 2 weeks after. So I didn't give a shit that he didn't respond right away, but he was like, sorry, I didn't like for my late response or not
I
responding
had
right away.
no idea how to respond to something like
Yeah,
this.
he was like, I wasn't sure how to respond to this. And it was like, if I would have known what was going to happen, I wouldn't have put the sensor, which now I know that's what he was talking about. The sensor was the stand.
the smoke
that the
machine.
incense was on.
You thought it was like an electronic sensor.
He's like, I wouldn't have put it like near him in front of your uncle if I'd known that was going to happen or whatever. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, for sure. I wasn't trying to place blame.
So you
or
were
anything.
trusting the tech. You're like, okay, they got it all like mapped out. They got sensors on the floor so that they make sure there's not too
Yeah.
much smoke. This is good.
He spelt it different though. It's spelt CENSER, I believe. And
yeah.
sensor that I was referring to is CEN.
He just pretends like everybody knows this word. Like it's just, we use it all the time.
But yeah, he had told me they have, he said they've got the ceiling fans on and then the furnace fan or something. But I had just said, I'm not sure fans alone, like allow for the levels.
Can they use like dry ice or something? Would that work? I mean, you get kind of the smoke effect, but nobody's going to get their lungs hurt.
They need
they need to
modernize. They need to reform this shit because it's like not safe. So anyways, I'm by no means any expert on the matter, but I just was sort of saying, I'm not sure if that alone, allows the levels not to get too high. But then I said, because at the time, I had not done my full extensive research to find out that sensor was the name of the stand. So like I thought he meant they had some sort of a sensor mechanism, but he had put it too close to my uncle that I don't know. It was, I don't know. I
misread it and
I'm like,
now you know what he's talking about.
And so then I said, but if you have a sensor, that's all you would need to know if the levels don't get too high, like the carbon monoxide levels, whatever. He has since not answered. Okay. And then I ended it. I did conclude it with, thank you for doing both my grandparents' services, whatever. Like I meant no offense. It's just the matter of the situation. Like I literally wrote in my journal today, I still was having thoughts of like ruminations at times, like it'd be that
you were afraid you were sort of telling him how to do his job.
Yeah, that I'm a little snarky, just like, well, that, and like trying to accuse him.
Like was baptizing someone and you're like, you're holding his head underwater for just a little bit too long. Could you mind? I noticed you poured a lot of water on the baby. Do we really need that much water? I mean, it kind of got some in its ears and nose and it was crying there.
It could have been a life and death situation and I cannot just say nothing with the further information of carbon monoxide levels getting too high when you burn fucking charcoal.
No, I can't imagine a world.
And I'm like, are they doing this every Sunday? Like, I think it's a bit more. I think it's a bit extra for like funeral services, but like I swear
the smoke is extra. You mean? It's like an add-on.
So we leave the church, we go to the cemetery. And we pulled up behind the car the priest was in, and I swear they opened the door.
Yeah.
And a puff of fucking smoke came out of that shit.
And I assume that was from
It was
the censer,
everywhere.
not from something else.
He brought
smoking something else.
Yeah, he brought the incense to the cemetery, and that was fine. We're outside.
Yeah.
Well ventilated. But anyways, yeah, I couldn't help but it's like I have to at least give him the information.
So hold on a sec. Did you think he was going to get the text? And he's never thought about this before. He's been like a father his whole life or whatever. And he gets this text. He's like, holy shit, there's carbon monoxide in the smoke? What? It's like, I had no idea. He starts doing his research. He's like, yeah, like, what the hell am I doing? Of course not.
What? Do you think that I was extra for saying that?
Oh, no, I don't. No, I'm glad you did because, you know, it is.
I had to write in my journal
I'm being
that I'm
silly,
a good
of
person
course. Yeah,
today.
but I don't think he's changing. I think that's what I'm
had
saying.
To like write out that I was feeling awkward about it and stressed and worried that I was offending him. And then I had to affirm myself that I'm a good person.
Yeah.
Because I'm just trying.
You're just looking out for people.
But it's cringe. I don't want to have to try and correct someone. I don't want to have to do that. And I also, just to show that I wasn't speaking out of my ass, the first time I did maybe this was a bit extra. I don't know. I sent him a little photo of like not Wikipedia.
Oh, no.
A Google search. It was just sort of saying,
just so you know how to use Google.
And then I just was like, it uses charcoal. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like I was pretty sure it does, but I just, because I was like, apparently it doesn't take that much to, you know, whatever. But to prove too that it wasn't just me being extra, I showed the little Google search saying like, you know, people will be surprised that actually doesn't take that much of whatever and then I think that was from an article called like this many deaths, like this many carbon related deaths from burning charcoal. And and I was like, the incense uses charcoal, right? Like, correct me if I'm wrong. And so
you're essentially accusing him of killing people is what you're doing, or trying to anyways. You're asphyxiating people, sir.
No, I don't know.
I know. I'm just teasing you. I don't know
if that part was shown. It just had happened. The website, the thing that it was from, it was maybe a study or something. I think the info was from that link. I don't know. I did a decent amount of research, but anyways, it's like, I think I'm finally over it. Like, Father It's not going to further respond. That's fine. And I'm okay with it. Literally just today though, I found out that, there's this thing you do 30 days or something or 40 days after the service.
Okay.
And you go and you stand with the priest at the cemetery for 10 minutes. So my mom's going to go do that. I didn't know we had any further proceedings.
We just want to know if he's bringing his censer or not.
And I'm like, God, I hope I didn't. I'm not going to be a part of that though. I'm not going to be there again with Father and his old incense at the cemetery. So,
well, here, this is what I was going to.
He's not like pissed off at my family before I said that.
I sort of forget this piece here.
But who cares if he is? Not my problem. I'm
It's
trying to keep people alive here,
That's
guys.
right. Well, you know, in any other venue, these sorts of things are already taken care of. There's all sorts of rules and laws where you can't have, you know, a bunch of smoke billowing out into the audience, whether it's sort of like a traditional play with actual actors or whether it's like a Broadway show or a magic show or something like that. You can't walk around the room with, you know, a carbon monoxide maker. But, you know, since it is a religious practice, it does get this sort of exemption to the law. At least that's how I understand it. So I don't think there's any other venue these days where you could do that and not expect a letter like yours or an email like yours saying, hey, what the hell?
It's the size of the incense thing. Like, there's the amount that's burning and the length of time that we're in there. Like, if it was a more of a minimal thing, it's not an issue, but it does start to create a hazardous environment. But anyway, so that was funeral number 1 of the month that had some chaos going on. And then really tragically, the day after that funeral, a cousin of mine ended up passing away, very young, tragically, from a like fentanyl laced overdose situation. Or I guess it's not
very, very sad.
It's not considered it's like
unintentional. Someone had maybe laced whatever he was using. And
I believe it was cocaine, which is so, I had a job And I had a job that was at a restaurant, and it was just known, the manager that hired me, I know we're
to know if you wanted a bump
topic here, but
yeah.
he was like, he said he was still hungover. He said he was like hungover when he was conducting my interview. And then he proceeded, as the interview went on, to say, I think I'm actually just still drunk. Anyways, it was
by the way, you're hired.
It was known that he was apparently just like a very regular cocaine user, a bit of a just casual cocaine.
But I think what you're trying to say is it's not supposed to be so dangerous. It's not supposed to kill you. This is something that people do as a party drug.
I'm saying they weren't lacing that shit with fentanyl. And also, I don't know. I wasn't close to this cousin. I don't know if they had any actual legitimate like addiction to cocaine or drugs, or dabbled, or I don't know if it was like an actual addiction thing. Anyways, but yeah, back in the day, they weren't lacing that shit with fentanyl, and it's really sad. There was a person that I'd gone to high school with a few years after high school or something like that. He had like same thing, like a fentanyl laced drug, and died. And it's just, I don't know how else they can deal with that problem at this point besides starting to legalize other drugs so that people can get a clean
sort of like
supply.
Decriminalize everything, make sure everything's tested, and sort of snuff out the black market as best you can.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, it's just really sad. It was a shock to the family for sure.
Yeah,
and,
very devastating. A young man.
So yeah, we had just the funeral was yesterday, and there was some lore at this funeral as well. The pastor was quite interesting to say the least. And
I kind of feel uncomfortable talking about this because it was so recent, and it was a quite uncomfortable situation. Or at least that's how I perceived it. Where basically this priest kind of was making the service more about himself and his ministry than he was about the dearly departed, who he had never met before.
He literally started off with like, "I'm not here to try to convert anyone." And proceeded to try.
Yeah, I'm just trying to show you the way. I'm not trying to convert anyone, but yeah.
Like we didn't really know. He didn't know my cousin. He didn't know. I actually don't know the full. I don't think anyone in the family really knew him at all that well. Someone maybe pointed my aunt in the direction of him being able to basically just
host the service
host the service for us, because we didn't really have anyone. It is nice to have someone do that, and it's fine to have.
And the mother was religious, and so she wanted that element.
She would be considered
as part of the service.
Spiritual. I didn't even know that she was. I don't know if she's actually that quote religious. I know she's.
But this guy was very religious.
I know she's quite spiritual. Yeah, and so it doesn't. Yeah, it's like.
I think we were uncomfortable about the way that he was sort of saying things. There was this insinuation that if you do the wrong things in life, that God will take your life, or that you'll end up dead. And it felt very inappropriate at a funeral to be.
He basically compared my cousin's suffering, or like insinuation of his suffering, to Jesus's crucifixion, and is saying that Jesus would be like, I know the suffering.
He's like, you think Jesus you got it bad? Well, you ain't been crucified.
Like, the way he was speaking was not super direct.
He was kind of letting you connect the dots,
but it was really evident that what he was getting at there and stuff. And
Absolutely.
It was basically like, oh, you think Jesus doesn't know suffering? He was crucified. Like, that's like the most whatever suffering.
Yeah, it was almost like if you sin and make mistakes, you're going to end up dead. And he said it in different ways. And it was just sort of like, what an inappropriate, out of God's lane.
When you go out of the path that God laid out for you, and you make these not good choices. And I feel quite strongly, my cousin, it's so shocking to me that cocaine like is laced with it, or that that's it's just this like that there's that risk there that you're going to die. Like I highly doubt he was aware of like
it's only got to happen once,
that he was
right?
taking with this. I don't know. I don't think he was aware, this could be laced with fentanyl and I could die tonight. I don't think, and I don't know if the pastor had the full details of the thing, and he might have thought it was, regardless though, it was inappropriate what he was saying. Regardless, I don't know if he thought,
but
that
that's
it was
not
like
even.
I don't know if he thought it was like, like a standard drug overdose and not like an accidental fentanyl laced thing. But regardless, that doesn't matter. It was
that
just
wasn't
so
even the thing that was the more so
crazy part.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that.
Are we going to talk about the song?
Well, yeah, he basically, at funerals, you bring people up, people come up sort of one at a time to eulogize the dearly departed. And they kind of say, hey, if there's anyone here who wants to share stories or come up, please, now's your time.
Yeah,
and
he was conducting that for a while, and it was a really long service.
Because he was a terrific young man who had a lot of people saying wonderful things about him.
Yeah, and he had impact. It was like full house. I was like, this is such a big turnout. He had touched so many lives, impacted people in so many ways, and it seemed like all different kinds of people were there. We had a guy play the Godfather theme on the trumpet.
Yeah, that was touching. This older fellow, one of the old timers he'd worked with,
in memory of him.
Just tremendous.
Yeah, we had different people talk and stuff and say things. It was just, there was
so everyone said all these people who knew the dearly departed said all these lovely things, and then time for the slideshow, right?
It was like getting to the point too where it had been a while. It was kind of like he was like, anyone else want to come up? It was the moment too where it's like, okay, it's time to move it along.
Time to watch the slideshow.
And then he did. So I think he did conclude with, we're not going to be able to even get through everyone. Was that him? Or maybe someone else suggested that.
That was sort of a different,
someone else was like, there's just so many lives he impacted that we can't even be able.
All of us can't get up and share our stories, or we'd be here all day, kind of thing.
So by the time it was like no one else was going up, we were like, okay, great, finally. Okay, not finally. Okay, that's so rude to Revel say. That's so bad of me. It wasn't final. It was kind of like just the order of events, and to move it to like, okay, time for the slideshow and stuff like that. Like it was just. Would have been perfect timing to start the slideshow at this point in time when he said anyone else, and everyone was ready to move on.
Well, we're going to get to the slideshow,
everyone's
but
ready to move on. Everyone was perfectly. It was like great.
I've got a song,
and then this pastor was like, okay, well, I wanted to
play one of my own songs.
This song, and he gave the longest intro about the song.
Yeah, I'll kind of do his intro. He was sort of like, well, they always say it's dangerous to meet your heroes because you never. And but does anybody remember Cowboy Jack from back in the day? He was a child performer, you see, and a young girl came up to him after, and he's going off about this shit,
and on and on and on and on. And
but that wasn't even it.
Started the song, didn't he?
Then he started talking about how the guy that wrote. So he tells this story how this girl's hero says, "Get out of here, kid," and her illusions were destroyed. But he met his guitar hero, the writer of this song, and he's only got 4 fingers. But he's a Christian and he's a great guy, and he lived up to all the holy hell. And I'm like, what does this have to do with the dearly departed? It turns out nothing.
The finger part. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy on about? I obviously zoned out. Something about how, this guy was able to...
He only had 4 fingers, yet he was number 1 in finger picking.
Yeah, I think it's amazing
what
how he
are
was
you
able
talking about?
to play, even though he didn't have a finger. It's like, what the fuck? So this is before he even starts the song. And this song, it was a long song. Goes on for literally eternity, and
he didn't even play it well. That was the challenge, was that he kept fucking up and messing up, and it was sort of like, Jesus
I thought
H.
the guitar wasn't that bad, but the voice was pitchy, and it was awkward, and it was just so cringe. Like, I'm trying to embrace the cringe for myself, but the fact that this guy imposed,
who would ever get that into their head?
To make it about him, to make it about himself. Sorry, It was fucking cringe, like the type of cringe that I'm not like, oh, that person's really putting themselves out there, and
then
like,
as a
you're
cherry
pushing
on
yourself
top,
to do it, even though it's kind of cringy, but like not that kind of cringe, like cringe.
When he
people started
kind of like side chatter and started kind of
everyone had been very.
There was a rumble in the crowd.
Whole time. Like then it starts to get louder and louder, and more people start to just be talking and zoning out and not giving a fuck because this guy, no one should be giving a fuck about what's going on because he's literally trying to have like a.
He was trying to preach, and I think he hoped that people would be so enamored by his Jesus song that they would want to join his church. But it did not belong. And then afterwards, just to make matters worse, he tells everyone, "It's like, okay, everyone, now you can go mingle about."
Before we get to that,
all right.
The longest outro of the song too. This is what I felt intuitively. I felt that it seemed like he almost felt irked by the people not paying attention to him and giving him the attention, that he made it go on longer and like
hoping he'd win them back by the end with his finger picking skills. Actually,
just when you thought it was done, like it was like da 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 da. But he kept going on like in the outro. He had stopped singing, and the longest outro ever, and then it was like okay, and then he did like a final bar like really slow, and it was like blah blah blah. Like the longest fucking outro. And I just swear it seemed like he purposely was making it longer for a reason to like prove something. It's like, buddy, this ain't about you. It was so crazy.
It was very inappropriate, I would say.
So now everyone's disrupted, and he finishes, and then he announces that we're going to take a sec to like set up the slideshow, so whatever. So he gives this implication that we're going to have this little break or something. So many people get up and
start
go to the back
mingling
and
about, use the washroom and this and that, the other.
And then my aunt's like, no. Also I just felt so bad for my aunt. Like my,
the mother of the dearly departed
mom. Yeah. Because I was watching her and her body language shoot during like the song and stuff that he was playing. Like she was just looking down, like she seemed fucking pissed. Everyone seemed like irked.
Yeah.
So irked.
Sort of like, what the hell?
And so I was like, oh my God, I feel so bad for her. And then so she's like, no, we're doing the slideshow right now, guys. Like, we'll get up after. Like tried to summon everyone back to do the slideshow.
Yeah, but it's tough to wrangle a whole group of people, and then you have to flicker the lights and come on, guys.
This like fame hungry cult leader fucked it up. Yeah. And so because everyone was disrupted. So eventually throughout the slideshow, people quieted down more and kind of settled into it. But for the first half, at least, it was just like people
he
were talking
forgot that he wasn't in front of one of his home congregations. He was so used to like preaching and being the center of attention. Yet here you are leading, a young man's funeral, and it's
not about you.
You're playing some song from your hero, telling all these stories that have nothing to do with anything. I thought at least it was going to tie into the your cousin's story and so.
Yeah.
No, he was just doing his thing.
I must have
captive audience.
I must have spidey senses, because I swear when he first got up there, he seemed a bit extra. It was just giving something. It was a bit unsettling. I just was like, what is this guy about? Just the way he was holding himself and presenting himself. And
he looked happy though.
And I was like, maybe he's just smiling. Really confident. And that's like triggering my lack of confidence and my gaslighting of myself at times, that if I have a bit of confidence that I'm some sort of a narcissist or something, I'm like, maybe it's just triggering that within me. But then it made sense when things proceeded.
Well, look at his worldview. Look at things from his perspective, right? He probably believes that the earth is about 6,000 years old. We maybe have like another 50 years or so before Jesus returns. Like he's got this totally different outlook. And I'm sure to him, he left home that night thinking, God, I probably led so many people to Christ tonight with that beautiful song I played.
He did not have the level of self-awareness needed to conduct a funeral.
I feel like we're gonna have to censor the hell out of this one, though. Like we're gonna have
Why?
to remove personal names and.
What personal names?
Well, I think we've said a couple things. Well,
I didn't
at least
say-
we said the name of the last father. So
I know. I
yeah.
contemplated.
We'll make sure we change that.
I don't care. No one knows where this is. It's.
Well, it's a pretty
I
unique
just-
name. There's not too many father
Rosif.
out there, especially father
Rosif.
with those cool sports shades he had on
I
outdoors.
felt like
Had
I
those
needed-
Oakleys when we went to the
know.
graveyard.
I loved it. It was just like
I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty cool. He's got a big beard.
it was the dichotomy of the priest shit with like his Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
like having a bro name and just be he seemed like a chill dude.
He seemed like he
'Cause
could
I
be in a
wasn't
metal
sure
band or something because, bald head. big
I was
beard.
doing the slideshow and I was worried about offending the priest because he also attended the reception and I was doing the slideshow. There was a video about how I was asking my grandparents how they met and stuff. And then my grandpa made an ultra hilarious joke referring to that they,
She used to think I was a Greek god.
oh yeah, there was
Now I'm
that
just
part.
a goddamn Greek.
So there was the word goddamn, which is like, is that using the Lord's name in vain thing, whatever. And then there was him making a joke about, I don't know, I edited it a bit, but it was insinuating them consummating the no, before that.
Talking about hanky panky and such.
I
Yeah.
asked when they first met and kind of like their first date. And then I was like, then what happened? And then my grandpa's like, then we went to the bed.
Then we went to the sheets.
And then he's like,
what do you think?
and my grandma's like, oh my God, don't say stupid stuff that's not true.
Yeah.
Because this is on camera. And he's like,
So you
I don't
decided
care.
to play this
So
in the
then he's
church.
like, we went to the
good
bed.
idea.
Like basically then we like slept together, whatever. So there was that part of it that I
was
was like, am I
fun.
going to offend the priest? But, no, he was cool. It was all, everyone was
all
laughing and he's not ultra, it doesn't seem at all like he's actually ultra.
Yeah, he seemed like a nice
conservative,
guy, you
even
know?
though he's like an Orthodox priest, he seems more chill. And
I
these
liked him.
people too, they'll be wearing like sneakers with their priest stuff at the
they'll have
cemetery.
so just a little bit of casual.
It's just these things are fun when you have that little mix of things. But anyways, I was gonna just change his name. I was gonna be like Father, but then I don't know. But then I wanted to be like, I guess I didn't need to. If I said that, I didn't need to be like, oh, I'm changing the name for whatever anonymity purposes. But
Father Braden.
it's like a bro name. It's like Father, but not. And then obviously people would probably think, what's close to?
Yeah.
Like there's
They'd
only
figure
a
it out
couple
anyways.
super
Yeah.
bro names. I don't know.
Well,
Nothing against Father.
Rosif.
He is a sweetheart. He's doing his thing. And he didn't do anything wrong. Like he didn't know to probably stop either. Like as soon as I think the family was like, oh, hey, can you maybe.
if God
Just
didn't
wait.
want them to do it,
He was still doing his
step
stuff.
in and change the rules.
And the
So there you go.
paramedics had not arrived at all yet, or was it like, when it got to the point where he was being like carried into a wheelchair, then obviously, things had completely
The
stopped.
show
But
must go on. The man's
he
a
probably wasn't
consummate
sure.
professional.
He
It's like,
probably wasn't sure what even fully was going on or what to do.
yeah.
But now I'm like awkward to put this out.
I don't know. Sometimes I think just anything involving a funeral, sometimes people can get really kind of sensitive about death and things like that. And I just don't, want it to ever come off that we're, sometimes it's hard to be sort of like lighthearted with these situations, but that's how people,
I'm not going to conform.
grieve.
Things happen, people die, and then also be careful out there if you're burning incense and stuff. Like you could get too high carbon monoxide levels. I think these are important things to talk about. And
So if there's one
maybe
takeaway,
also this is like why I feel like I'm autistic at times too, is that it's the people will be like, this is insensitive, or why are you just casually talking about this? That's why I think I don't know. Like,
you keep look at
shit
that.
happens.
You're telling. She's telling me not to bring my drink and put it on the thing, and here you are, stirring your smoothie here. You're jangling your metal straw, bonking it down on the table there. What the heck?
I'm just glad everyone's okay and it's all fine and it's all good and dandy. But I as someone on the interwebs, I don't know, just, it's like now I'm just like,
as a person on the interwebs.
Now I'm feeling judged
by
Sean
what? Why am I not judging
like,
you?
Oh, should we put this out there? Or I guess you were just saying the name of the person.
I'm just, saying what comes to my mind here. That's what you wanted me to do.
I don't like the word influencer, so I'm trying to think. I've been trying to think of a different one. I'm not an influencer, like as a person that rambles about their life.
As a person that rambles online, okay.
And
shares way too much. Yeah.
The context of this podcast being called Earth Drama, I
want it to be about drama of the earth.
I can't help but sometimes tell stories of my life or things that happen. And I don't know. I don't think you need to completely try to censor every single thing of the thing.
Oh, of course not. No, I
wouldn't have said his name if I would not have said his name if it didn't. It was just the fact that it's like, it's a cool name and it's like a bro name. It just like adds to.
There's probably like a million fathers out there nowadays, right? A bunch of cool guys with Oakleys or whatever the hell they're called. Like,
the whole father, like I'm texting father. It was just the whole lore of.
I had to call him, right?
Texting a priest,
and it's sort of like what do I say, right? And you're like, call him father. I'm like calling him sir, but I think he's getting fed up with me, so it's like goodbye, father. Just feels so weird. Actually, the first time I called him, I did say hello, father, because
I heard like my family,
because it was kind of fun, like in the movies,
because my family would refer to him as that. Or I'd hear other people being like,
oh yeah, it's like an honorific.
Director too.
I'm fine with that.
It was funny when they were kind of, there was a bit of tension between, now every time I say his actual name now, I feel awkward. We already said it and like no one's going to know who this person actually is, but Father and the funeral director had a little bit of beef because he was the timing of the funeral, like I said, we did a thing at the church and then we go to the cemetery and then we go back to the church or whatever. So we have to schedule the burial at a certain time at the cemetery, and according to when it's open, if other people are there, we can't get there until a certain time. So Father wanted to start at like 10 a.m. still, even though we couldn't get the burial started until 12:30.
But I think at the end of the day,
and the funeral director was like, he was like, well, still, it's good to have a bit of extra time, or like, we'll still be on time. And they were like, just kept going back and forth, and it was just like getting.
Well, it turned out tense. Father knows best, as they say. Tense. So he was right.
No, we ended up starting at 10:30. Like he did finally compromise, but it's just like the back and forth, like, when there's tension and people are kind of like, the vibe is a little bit passive aggressive, but you have to be just very cordial and polite.
Yeah.
And so the funeral director was like,
it's like a modern funeral home meets an Orthodox church.
Yeah. So he was like, I've been doing this a long time. And so, and then,
as have I, sir.
Funeral director was like, I've also been doing this a long time, and after we got off the phone, so we finally agreed on 10:30, and then funeral director was like, he did not want to budge on that one.
Yeah.
Wipe the sweat off the forehead.
Yeah, she couldn't say what she was really thinking, but that's all right. That's, you stay professional in those moments.
Yeah,
so.
She did an awesome job. They all did an awesome job. And it is what it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, both services were despite, whatever those, little things, they were just beautiful expressions of grief and love. And so it was just awesome, the whole thing.
Yeah. I think we can, I don't know.
Move on
to a lighter topic?
Yeah, I think so.
End the thing?
I kind of want to just end it because I feel like we've sort of wrapped everything up, but we're also ending it on a topic that's kind of, I don't know. I'd like to leave it on something more lighthearted.
Yeah, let's shift this hard pivot to. Excuse me.
Don't you have like a list or something here?
Not really.
Oh.
I don't know. I had a few other topics, but not. I guess one of my main things that I realized this last week was, I think a lot of my sleep problems and just stress, anxiety problems throughout the day are due to my avoidance of processing my emotions and consuming my brain with just something, distractions, things to escape from my emotions with, like listening to podcasts constantly or just consuming content. And so I have been really trying to like just sit with
a technology
myself,
fast,
my own thoughts and feelings.
Yeah,
and
not to
sense
have
of self.
someone else's voice in your ear all the time.
Yeah, because I had lost like my sense of self again, I think, and then I was just flailing around and getting so enmeshed with people. And again, like it happened before, and then I kind of unenmeshed myself by cutting back on the content and just spending more time with myself and just to be bored. Even it's like we have a hard time just even taking a shit without bringing our phone with us.
Who are you talking about? We? Are you talking about me? Or are you talking about the greater we here?
Do you actually know? Are you one of the few people?
Yeah, no, of course I bring it with me. Of course, everybody brings their phone with them.
Oh,
but
so you do that.
When you do that. Yes, I do that. I'm just, you know what? I think for myself, I just want to spend less time engaging with other people's content and get more into making my own content or making our own content. And I'm so excited to get back to that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I'm allowed to say here, but if you're a fan of one of these other things that Alyssa and I do on YouTube, I'll let you know. We are coming back. We love you a whole lot. I have never given up.
Are we wrapping up?
Oh, I don't know.
Are you wrapping it up?
I guess I was.
Sorry.
Huh? Okay. Let's keep going then.
Maybe
you can edit this part out.
I zoned out going in my head, like censoring the priest's actual name and inserting an audio clip of me saying a different name.
Tony. We'll call him priest. Father Tony. We probably will edit it because it you know, the chances are like slim to nil, but you know, if you had a big audience, then I think you'd be extra concerned that you wouldn't want to, because just so that they don't get, hey, I heard someone talking about you on, you know, just to sort of prevent that from happening, you know?
It's just because I spliced in some footage of the live stream on my video when I was talking about the incident, and it was anonymous. Like I didn't show anyone's face or I just didn't even show his head. But yeah, if someone knows and puts two and two together, then I don't want to.
Yeah, it's just sort of about giving them some anonymity.
Influencers all the time, but then they get in trouble too. Especially like if they're well known, it's like
the more
then everyone's going after that person that they talked about.
Yeah, the bigger the audience, the more likely that'll happen.
I listened to the Canceled podcast, and that seems to happen a lot. Even if they will not say the person's name, even
people figure it out, and they're all on Reddit kind of figuring out who it is.
So yeah, I got to be careful. But sometimes it's like, how do I talk about anything about anyone that's like occurs in my life sometimes?
Yeah, I know that's kind of the interesting thing,
even
right?
the hairdresser lore, I changed her name. But even then I was going to write, it's a whole thing going on with my former hairdresser, so I don't want to say the whole story, but I was maybe going to make a review.
Ooh, and then official review on this person's business.
And then because if the saga were to continue, like if I were to write a review and then if she would have responded and if her response would have been quite interesting or something, then I would have maybe wanted to talk about that on the channel. But even saying the review, technically people could type my words into Google and then her studio could come up and then they could find her real name and her real salon.
Be like, hey,
the actual city that I live in. This
customer of yours is talking shit about you online. You wouldn't believe it. She's got like a nickname for you. She's thinking about merch. It's insane. And then this woman's going to check it out. And she'd be like, what the fuck?
The merch that did not happen. That was going to be a hoodie that says "Is Jill okay?"
Because she kind of just ghosted you at the end there. So
totally ghosted in a way. Well, I gave her a chance to respond, and then 6 days later, I responded with saying,
Yeah,
in a polite way that basically I didn't even say I found another hairdresser. I just said I found another solution. And then
you left it at that.
And then she still didn't respond. It's just annoying when you get the email that's like, if you have any questions,
if you have any comments or concerns, and it goes straight into the void.
Yeah. And she puts her to reach out. The way to reach out is to either text or call her. I think she puts her number in that email.
Well, there you go. So they were disingenuous about wanting to make you happy and listen to your feedback. But yeah, I mean, it's just doing one of these sorts of podcasts where you talk about other people and you talk about real life situations. You do have to sort of straddle that line where you got to be careful about, people's privacy in certain domains. And
I also feel like, though, it's like we're all human and we all
talk shit about each other, but if you've got a big platform that creates
if other people know me and are an influencer, like maybe they would have stories about me, and then it's also just their perspective of the thing, or they're like,
well, it's like we're putting ourselves out there in the public eye. We're sort of choosing to tell our stories and to have people, feed into that. But, if you're telling a story about someone else and you got people from the internet saying, hey, you were on this podcast, they were talking about you. It's just, it might be kind of a jarring experience for them,
Oh, and I would cringe.
Especially someone who's not in the public eye or doesn't want to be.
That's what I stress about is like, I want it to just stay anonymous as it can.
Yeah. So I think that's a good reason to, sort of, at least just to be extra cautious.
Yeah. It's just hard for me while we're recording, I think, to use a different name.
Yeah. It'll slip out if you try.
Well, I could have made myself into, right. But then I don't know if it's also my own complex of, I'll just feel like I'm lying. It doesn't matter. Like I'll feel like I don't know. Usually people
by changing
they'll say the names.
They
say the name and then they bleep it out.
Yeah.
That's what they do on the cancel podcast. Like they don't continue. They don't like say a fake name and then not say it's a fake name.
Yeah, because you get
and then continue to say
too
the
much
name.
to keep track of, right?
Yeah.
So just go in afterwards, bleep out a couple of things, and you're good to go. Yep. So there you go. We're going to make sure that everyone's comfy. It's not going to be a few bleeps.
It's going to be like I said it so many times. So,
well, you better get to it then, because we're.
Yeah, I should probably end this now. Okay, hi, it's Alyssa here. I've just been editing the podcast and I have an update. In relation to the Father Broseph lore. Because I could not deal with having beef with a priest. He had not responded back to my last message, and I just couldn't stop ruminating about the whole thing and just feeling so icky about myself that I was coming off as some snarky know-it-all and that we had some sort of beef going on. So I ended up, I texted him this. I said, I can't help but ruminate on how I may have unintentionally come off as accusatory and offended you in my previous messages, or at the least come off as some know-it-all trying to tell someone how to do their job. If in any way that happened, I am very sorry. I was just stressing about there being an unintentional/accidental risk in the future and feeling guilty if I were to not say anything. I'm definitely a very anxious person. Anyway, I assumed you heard, but just in case not, my uncle is doing just fine. He seemed to have immediately recovered that day and actually wanted to stay for the rest of the funeral. This text is maybe a whole lot of unnecessary babble, but I just wanted to let you know my intentions having initially reached out. So he responded very nicely saying, please don't think you've offended or anything. And basically he just needed clarity from, I just need clarity with my response previously. I think maybe he just needed clarity when he initially responded back to me. And then he's praising God and that my uncle is doing well and God bless, whatever. And I'm like, thank you, Father, God bless. So I could finally just let it go after that. But I was tormented by him maybe feeling like I was accusing him of giving my uncle carbon monoxide poisoning, which is not what happened. I was just, I felt so guilty if I were to not say anything, if there was any issue in the future. It was just,
I gotta say just something. Anyways, okay, so that's the update. No more beef with Father Broseph, and love you guys. Bye.